Track 14, Adam's Song. Adam's Song. Joel woke suddenly fighting for breath. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. The dark of the room pressed close. It could have been any time of the day. Sweat ran down his neck. He pulled a hand to his stomach and felt his sharp pain through the thin fabric of his bed. The room steadied into shape. The E-suite, they called it. Spending the quarter in a space that was smaller than his room in his unit back in the root didn't feel like a promotion. A violet light blinked on the intercom. He laid there still, like his stomach was ripping itself to pieces. He pulled a stem from a spot hidden under his mattress. All he wanted was some relief. It reminded him of the feeling he would get elsewhere. But this was the house, where the fray was strongest. Joel felt it back at the root, but outside his unit, the veil had usually done its job, up until the last few months at least. He just wanted to go back to sleep. His eyes burned, his arms curled around his waist. It had been veiled for so long that he'd almost convinced himself it was permanent. But this was real. The intercom buzzed sharply. He wanted to hide. "Princess," the voice of the director said. "My office. Now." Joel blinked through the stress, sat up, and steadied himself. The air still clung to him like static. He rose, crossed the narrow room to the mirror, and imagined himself lifting a veil that may have hung on the hook. He could feel himself slipping it on, and the feelings dulled again, knowing there was one thing keeping him going for now. He dressed quickly, fastening the cuffs of his new suit, gold thread at the seams. It still didn't feel right. Outside his room, the corridors of the house were dull. White and gray panels defended the light from brightening anything. The further he climbed, the worse his stomach felt. He could feel it throughout his body with each step. By the time he reached the top floor, his hands had stopped shaking. That's when he saw her, with the rest of her violet-lit crew. The rest of them had various divisional kits on. She was the only one in a suit. They walked down the hall with a sense of ownership that he couldn't place. He liked the way they walked. He liked her, coming from the C-suite. He felt better around her, even if she hadn't spoken to him since that day in the galley. And every time he saw her, he would stop to ask her, "So, when can I get your number?" And every day for the entire quarter, all she did was smile at him as her followers giggled for her. But today she mouthed something, and Joel caught it. It was a start. When he reached the director's door, he didn't knock. The door slid open, and a rush of gold blinded Joel's view. He still wasn't used to that. Inside, the director sat across his desk from the ledger and his keeper. Joel was surprised to see the ledger. For a moment, he couldn't place what he was seeing. The ledger was calm as ever, his keeper standing behind him as he sat, his wristband pulsing, his posture loose and unbothered. The director was the opposite. Broad smile, sharp shoulders, and too much motion in his mouth, not noticing Joel. Then he entered the room and his eyes flicked to a child in the corner. They were standing behind the director, half a step back and angled inward, silent, stiff, hands clasped behind his back like a prisoner. Their shoulders curled in the black kit they were wearing, just enough to look smaller. Every subtle movement of the director made the child's eyes twitch toward him, not in obedience, but in conditioned fear of being noticed. So is that all you need me to do? The ledger said, leaning back in his chair with his finger under his nose. Just then, the phone on his desk rang, violet light blinking. The director's smile snapped back into place as he picked up the phone and waved off the ledger. The ledger shifted his weight in his chair, annoyed. Joel could hear the director speaking to someone about his upcoming broadcast. Everything had to be perfect. Only by the end of his brief conversation did the director notice Joel. "You shouldn't be here," the director said, each word clipped. The ledger interrupted to finish what they had started. "You know," he said quietly, "if I have to be here, Diamond, I'd rather be doing something worthwhile." The director was annoyed. "We need an upgrade. Your services have been outdated for cycles. And call me Diamond one more time, and I'll reallocate what is needed to make that happen sooner rather than later. So for now, fulfill your contract and just do your job." The ledger rolled his eyes, huffed. The director looked back to Joel. "And what do you want?" Joel blinked, caught off guard. "You called me in here." The director stared at him, as if the reply itself was an insult to his intelligence. The silence hung like a cord stretched too tight. The ledger checked his wrist one last time before standing up. He turned and walked towards the door, leaving only the faint sound of pages settling. "Ah, a golden boy," he said, stopping in front of Joel. "Heads up, he's in a mood." Joel ignored him as he walked past both him and his guard. The ledger shook his head as he watched Joel walk by. The door sealed behind him and his keeper. The director's face didn't move until the room was empty. Then it hardened even more. He gestured for Joel to step closer. "Sit." Like a moth to a flame. Joel found the smell instantly as he sat across the desk of the director. His stomach started to curdle. His office overlooked the garden far below, the children reduced to motes of color. Joel noticed the child with a yellow light on the floor next to the director wasn't moving. They knelt there and stared straight ahead at nothing, jaw clenched, like they knew even looking at one another would not be in their best interest. Around their neck, a small object glinted, a pendant, the curator's crest. The director caught Joel's eyes, then leaned back in his chair, legs spread, his voice casual. "So, are you ready to quit yet?" he asked with a laugh as he gestured beneath him. Joel's mouth twitched. "No." "Well, what do you think of my dog, then?" He looked at the director, then to the child, and back again. Then he opened his mouth to speak, but the director waved a hand. "Where are we with the Q1 TPS reports? I assume you've been filing them, correct?" The child took a deep breath. Joel froze and his eyes shifted between the two of them. "I. No, sir. Not yet. I was wondering what these reports actually are. Maybe if you could fill me in on why exactly we need to be filing them in the first place. Or help me understand what I'm really looking at here. It's not like I've had any formal training." "Help? You've been here for months now. There's nothing to understand. All you have to do is file them." The director's laugh cracked across the room. "With stock as high as yours right now would show a little more bandwidth." He circled behind the desk, pacing as if performing for an invisible audience. "You know what I like in an apprentice? Initiative," he continued. "You see a task, you do it. You don't wait to be told. You don't make excuses. I wasn't, Joel started, but the director cut him off again. Don't tell me what you weren't. Tell me what you are. You're supposed to be here for Eden. The last one didn't get that. Thought the title meant something. I guess some just can't endure, he said as he stood behind the child behind him and rubbed their shoulder. A degenerate has never been in the position you're in now. Do you understand that? How you even came to be here is beyond me. Either way, I had no choice but to adapt. The director threw his hands up and glanced at Joel's orange light in disgust. You clearly have aspirations, but Eden doesn't need ambition from you. All Eden needs you to do is to serve, for as long as necessary or until you quit freely. But of course, you know what will happen to you and your family if you quit, he continued. His grin, as well as his hands on the apprentice, lingered too long. Joel and the apprentice swallowed in unison. Nothing personal. It's just how the game is played. The director let the apprentice go. Joel watched him exhale. He hadn't had an opportunity to talk to the apprentice all quarter. The only thing he was able to learn from him was his name. So you'll have them filed before our meeting at the end of this quarter's gathering, yes? Or are the ones selling high on you right now, playing it right? Joel glanced at the apprentice, then back again. Yes, sir. The director tapped the pendant on Apprentice's chest and looked back at Joel. And this is what you're after, right? Joel looked at the pendant as if he didn't want it now. You know what that is? Yes, it's the apprentice's pendant. The symbol of order, efficiency, and life. Joel caught a whiff and sat up straighter. The director's voice dropped. The last one didn't have what it took to wear it. You remember him? Joel nodded, confused. You mean them standing behind you? His eyes flicked to the apprentice standing right in the room with them. The child's eyes looked down. Right, this one. Smart kid, but just another golden boy. Word around Drafters Drift is that they were quite fast. Not as fast as me, though. I'm the fastest drafter that ever was or will be. Let's see how fast he runs the Fury. The director smirked, tapping his wrist light. No one outruns the Fury. Not forever. The apprentice's eyes flicked to Joel, like a warning. Joel didn't look away as he put his own finger under his nose. I don't like you, but you want to last longer than this one did. Stay ahead of fear. That's what a good apprentice does. Now, you, given that stupid thing, the director said to the child. The child took it off his neck and walked around the table to Joel. Joel couldn't stop staring at the yellow light on his wrist. The apprentice stood in front of him and whispered in his ear, putting the pendant over his head. Then he whispered to him, The bareback book is in your root. Joel hesitated for a second, but as quietly as he could, he responded, What are you talking about? But Adam turned away too quickly back to his spot. The pendant pulsed faintly on his chest, the way his stomach had been pulsing since he sat down. The director lounged back in his chair and spread his arms. See, I'm a fair man. I don't fire people. I free them. He glanced once at Adam. You don't perform. You don't just answer for yourself. Your unit takes its chances with the Fury. His smile thinned. Same deal this one got. He shrugged, almost kindly. This one decided he didn't like the odds. His arms opened wider. That's Melody. Choice. Then, softer. That's harmony. His words were smooth, but his eyes twitched when Joel didn't respond. The director didn't like silence. It gave him nowhere to stand. Well? The director asked. I understand, sir, Joel said. His voice was barely alive and his palms were dripping with sweat. And? He demanded. Thank you, sir, Joel responded quickly, his stomach still churning. Good. You're catching on. You're sharper than you look. You just need a little polish. The director's smile returned, wide and empty. As the curator once said, you are proof that humanity still deserves to endure. He stopped pacing. So, number 13 can you endure? Joel's eyes flicked to Adam again. Adam's eyes begged him to play along. Joel forced his voice not to shake. Yes, sir. That's a good boy. The director reached out and straightened the collar of Joel's uniform, the gesture too familiar. Keep your head down and your stock high. Do that, and we'll both shine as we prep for Q2 and beyond. His stomach was aching now. Joel winced as he held his breath. The director mistook it for humility. See? You're already learning. You'll make me proud, princess. Joel nodded at the director. Thank you, sir. The director smiled. Then Joel looked at the apprentice. Thank you, Adam. The apprentice's eyes went wide. The director's face changed, and then grabbed a folder from the table and passed it to Joel. I forgot one more thing, the director said. Yes, sir? Joel looked at him worried. That upgrade I've been working on. Push that through. Joel's face scrunched. Then a sudden shrill tone cut the air. The director's eyes snapped to the far corner of his desk, where his phone blinked once and then held a steady color of black. The director froze, letting it ring more than once. For a moment, he didn't breathe. The apprentice froze as well. Then, his entire posture shifted. His voice was low now, too measured. Leave, he said quickly without looking at Joel. Joel didn't hesitate, but the word hit hard for some reason. He gave one last look to Adam as he got up and left. As the door slid open behind him, the director picked up the receiver. His voice dropped into a register Joel had never heard from him. The air itself seemed to thin. Joel stepped into the corridor, but the door hadn't sealed yet. Through the sliver of space, he couldn't catch the words, muffled but urgent. The tone in his voice wasn't command this time. It was fear. Joel's pulse quickened as he couldn't hold his breath any longer. As the door closed behind him, the fresh air found him too fast, faster than he ever thought possible. But it didn't help this time. It was like his veil hung on long enough for him to brace himself. Then he felt like it fell off and smashed in a million pieces on the floor as it detached itself to Joel. His stomach seized and eyes burned. The corridor wavered under the light. He gripped a chair to stay upright, trying not to show it. The hallway lights were a different type of bright. The walls flashed gray, muting the grunts coming from his mouth. The pendant burned against his chest. He slowed only once, near a glass overlook. Far below, the garden breathed in the morning light. For a moment, Joel thought of Adam and what he said. The bareback book? It was only a myth. No one's actually ever used it. But the pendant heated up again, and he lost his train of thought. It didn't feel like proof of worth. It felt like a chain. He looked back down toward the garden, and just then, he could swear he saw something. Maybe a shimmer of a rift, threading through the flowers faster than light. His pulse jumped again. He touched his stomach, pressing against it until the pressure subsided. And then, it was gone. He blinked several times as he stood there, listening for the hum of the fray that ran through the house. His reflection on the glass looked strange, distant, like something that wasn't exactly him was staring back, like a shadow